procedures or you're going into these, most of you, I doubt any of you have ever asked for your EOB or let alone your EOMB. And when you get that, you should be looking at that. That's telling you what was prescribed with this hospital, with this doctor, with the This is also a great check to sit there and figure out what medical bills you have. And if you do need to file for, I don't know, a subsidy or relief, or, you need to file for a government program, because this is what we have the system set up for. This goes through. The idea of people going into bankruptcy over medical is kind of weird. There isn't as many cases as you'll hear the media try to champion this out or politicians do, because it just really doesn't happen. There's so many government safety nets on a state and federal level that anybody who is that poor that can't afford medical care, they automatically get picked up under a government program. Obamacare, it didn't do really that much in terms of providing a wide swath. What it did do was put the government first, offer you a penalization if you did not subscribe to health insurance, an unfair tax. And then what it did is gave a blank charge to allow providers to escalate their costs of care massively under the guise of saying, well, it's Obamacare, more people are signing up for it. And then leave the exchanges once they received their subsidies and went off on their way. So now good luck finding the exchanges. And people on Obamacare weren't really that excited with it. They were pissed off more and more because they had to pay taxes at the end of the year and incur a penalty if they didn't have it for a certain period in their taxable year. So, and it didn't increase the number of visits, because the number of visits for preventative care actually went down. So that's what you're really looking for, is if you're looking to revamp a health system and try to figure it out, your asses need to go get checked out. You got to have the poop shooter cleaned out once in a while. You got to have someone go check your throat. You got to like get up and get a physical and go take care of yourselves. That's what's going to actually go through. Your breast exams, your testicular exams, your spine exams, your ENTs, all of that stuff is going to be what actually keeps you healthy. And then, of course, taking care of yourself. But in America, we don't have that. We destroy our bodies. You don't seek medical care when you know something's wrong, and you'll wait till the end where you think you're dying, and then you walk into the doctor and say, give me a happy pill. And that doctor is going to sit there and say, great, I now made $250,000 because you sucked down 4,000 Big Macs in your lifetime and 20,000 gallons of fucking Coke, and now you want me to fix your heart because you couldn't stop eating it. And that's, my friend, is the truth.
This has been InsuredPodcast.com.
And for those in the cost shares, like Holly, yours may work. There's a gajillion of them. Just be cognizant of how difficult there are, and governments, especially states, are starting to look at it. There's another insurance that's coming up. It's by Brightson, another one. They're going to try to do a la carte insurance pricing, where you get to pick what kind of coverages you want. You already can to a certain extent, but they're going to offer you services and medicines and medical devices. You're going to go through a list. So instead of having a coverall policy, you're going to get a more nuanced one. Again, be careful, because you're going to be able to determine what plans you're on. So, for instance, if you come down with diabetes, late term, you're pregnant, you get gestational diabetes or something like that, and you don't select that in your a la carte pricing, that's not going to be covered. That'll be your out-of-pocket expense. And you can scream, rant, and rave, but they will sit there and hold and say, this is a checkbox that you had and you did not select, and it's done.
Hey, Mo, I want to switch the conversation. I was wondering, you still stuck in Minnesota, or you got out of there?
I'm still stuck in Minnesota.
You're not never leaving Minnesota.
No, I am. Well, so I've already moved. Half of my household is already in Texas right now. It was sent down with 2 guys in a truck, moving company, and they've already gone down. Most of my furniture, except for an old couch that I'm getting rid of, a couple things that I handmade, and right now I'm on a sleeping bag. That's all down there. There's like a small storage unit with some personal effects books and stuff like that. But right now I've been camping. I've just been sleeping outside, and I can tell you what, it's been the best experience. It's, quite frankly, I think everybody should just be outside for the summer. Get a good time.
Like, people are actively doing fucking drugs and you're doing nothing.
Yeah, wake it up!
That was fucking funny.
That was good, yeah.
Like,
Before I became a racist.
Wait, when was that?
when there was a festival, he called like the police
last
to make
year.
claims and say like people are actively doing drugs and posting. it on
People are
social
actively
media.
using illegal Schedule 1 substances, and you're doing nothing. They're advertising that they're doing this on social media, and you're not doing any goddamn thing about it.
Wait, do you care?
Do I care? Absolutely. The selective enforcement of law is the
okay.
most perfidious arm of tyranny. Do I care if an individual does drugs? No.
Yeah.
Personally, morally, I don't care in any way. What I do care about is that we have a state that is vested unto itself, it is reserved unto itself, the sole right to determine what is and is not legal, and only selectively enforces the legality thereof.
That's right.
And so you get these rich boys, I'm going to Burning Man, I'm going to go down to Burning Man, I'm going to do some LSD and some ayahuasca, man. And they're advertising this on social media, and on Twitter, on Snapchat, on Instagram. They're selling shit on Instagram, on Snapchat. And law enforcement is doing nothing. Law enforcement is busy fucking chasing January 6th protesters.
That's right.
It's a serious miscarriage of justice. It's tremendously, egregiously unethical, immoral, and a misuse of the public trust and of the public fund.
That's right. That's right.
Act all surprised, like, what are you talking about? Like, people are advertising right now that they're stuck in the mud on the playa, and we have very good probable cause, and you're not doing anything about it. You're not serving any warrants. You're not sending anyone out there. And I don't know if I did this on the phone with you guys, but I did call them. They said, oh yeah, we were aware of the situation. We're sending law enforcement is already on site, the sheriff's department. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, they're trying to help those people get out of the mud. I was like, they need to be fucking arresting them. They're trapped. Round them up.
I do remember something that people were like, what the fuck is he doing? Because he was coming so...
There was a wallet that had like 8 billion in Shiba Inu at the peak. And like no one had that, like the wallet hadn't even moved, so they thought it was a lost wallet. And then like they could see that someone had accessed it, so somebody did access that and they didn't sell.
Oh my god.
You know, that's what. This is worth 100 million or something now, you know,
That's
maybe
right.
200 million. But 8 billion was the peak.
That's exactly it. That's the point I'm talking about right now. So like, yesterday, he posted on his Twitter a meme of a guy looking in the mirror, and then it says, "You were a billionaire." So that's him.
I was by the lake and just kind of cool off, dip in the lake and go to sleep. I mean, you know, and Texas
how we
up
did
in
it.
the Buttes.
We
Yeah,
always
Texas
do.
up in the Buttes. Yeah, I'm gonna be hitting up the Buttes and they call them Buttes, I think, or Butts. I don't know. Fucking Texas, they got these like flat top mountains. I'm gonna be going all up there, and then until I hit down where Marshall is, and then I'm just gonna go blow shit up with Marshall.
Why Texas, Brad? Why did you pick Texas?
My daughter's there.
Okay, that's a good reason.
Oh, but I'm traveling to California. I'm going to the Redwood Forest. I'm going up to Seattle. I'm headed into Banff. I'm hoping to head into Banff by the fall. And I'm going to be traveling around. I got Atlanta, Georgia on the list. I got the fucking godforsaken state of Florida on the list. I got Tennessee on the list for somebody else who usually attends these rooms. I've got some other trips to go hang out with people and, go ahead and do things. A tree, not a tree court. Kimo, what is that? Tree house. That's actually a hotel. Giant one out somewhere near Tennessee. I'll be sitting there. I'm going to see Sarita in Mississippi. So there's a whole bunch of people that I just decided I'll camp along the way and see a bunch of parks and see some people and have fun.
Who are you gonna see in Atlanta?
Gerard.
Oh, well, y'all need to hey, include me. I'll come out and meet y'all.
No, you're the 100th person that's already jumped on that one. So we'll announce it. We'll come on Clubhouse and say anybody wants to come. I gotta stop in Chicago and see Akima and King and 40 other people. Apparently I'm headed all across Chicago. I got what's his name, Corey and Court and a whole bunch of other people that'll be going down. And if this trip goes as planned, I either will have to spend an entire year recovering from it, or it should be really fun.
Sounds awesome. Well, y'all let me know and I'll be there. I tried to invite Gerard to a meetup that
I gotta subscribe to your podcast. I think the only reason I didn't is because I don't have a YouTube account that's not linked to my real information. But I'll make a burner and I'll subscribe and start following you so I can get that content as it comes out. I would say though, we've got an epidemic in this country of people who want to hold beliefs that they never act on. I talked about selective enforcement a second ago. You probably weren't in the room, but just like selective enforcement is the most perfidious and destructive way for a government to conduct itself, proving by the sum thereof, you are ruled not by laws but by men. And on the other side of that coin is a population that doesn't act on truth, and it's irrelevant. You criticize the media, well, and rightfully so, mainstream media especially, for disseminating misinformation, malinformation, half-truths, actively propagating untruths, and obfuscating by omission, but you don't act on it. And when what is not acted on becomes a betrayal of the self. And that's why the media is allowed to, that's why the media gets away with what it gets away with. Yeah. Because people comfort themselves instead of acting.
Well, see, that's what, I don't know what form of acting it would be, but my form of acting is to go on every week and just destroy them as best I can, make fun of them, laugh at the clowns, and make sure everyone knows that these people are liars, and they're doing it on purpose. And it's not ignorance, it's malicious. And so, that's my form of acting. It's better than just sitting back and being like stupid media.
That's true. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to criticize it. I think that's a lot more than...
you were criticized. That was just my take. Yeah, you were criticized. Again, my takes are crap. You said that before. I just agreed with
No, it's not that your takes are crap. It's not that your takes are crap. It's that I think you're holding on to something. I think a lot of us are holding on to something. I think a lot of us are not, we're not willing to completely cut free of the things that we're moored to without realizing that they're preventing us from finding safer waters or more productive waters. But you're doing a lot more than most people are doing. So I encourage you to, I'm glad that you're doing that. I'm going to subscribe, and I don't want to hear people saying that they're going to vote when they know that the election was stolen. Like Stalin said it, right? It's who counts the votes. We don't We have no control over who counts the votes.
Well,
We have no way of verifying.
Think about this whole France thing. The overwhelming number of people voting right wing, where they can't, even if dead people are voting for the left wing, they can't do much when a ton of alive people are voting. Can you overwhelm them even if they try to cheat?
No control over who counts. Well, I think that
France is a disaster.
I think all of the right-wing stuff that's sweeping Europe is intentionally allowed to express itself at this time. I think it's very. So I don't see any way that we get out, that we're not going into war. Will, like, there's no way. I mean, very intelligent people, much more sophisticated than myself, have done a very good job of outlining how the death of the U.S. dollar as the dominant world reserve currency, which is underway as we speak, and evidenced by many happenings, how that is going to result in hyperinflation. The powers that be have literally just two options. There's only two things the powers can possibly do to deal with this massive debt that is not otherwise going away. They can inflate. They can allow, and not only do they have to inflate, but they have to absorb all of the U.S. treasuries and all of the U.S. dollars that are coming back from all of these other countries, the global south, these developing nations, the third and second world, who are finding that they get a much better return on investment if they buy oil and settle it in yuan. When they abandon the dollar, it comes back here, add that, and you have hyperinflation. And so the government, I mean, it's going to be a disaster. And so the way it's going to deal with that is to get us into a war.
Yeah, 100%. It would be.
It's going to
be
fight.
a combo of both. You'd be super poor, and you're only to go off to war.
Right, and then they have to go to war because you're super poor. Because super poor people suddenly realize that their entire willing participation in society has resulted in their exploitation. And so they demand new leadership. They demand a reorganization of the government, as the Declaration of Independence says. In order to forestall that, much like, they enforce martial law or something very close to it.
But you could easily just do, I mean, if this was to go down the way you're saying it, most Americans would blame the government at that point. I think they would fall hook, line, and sinker.
No, pardon, they're going to vote for Trump, and Trump never wanted war, so there's going to be an inciting incident. If there's going to be a war, there will be an inciting incident. We know that there always must be an inciting incident. The public would not. The public is not reasonable. The public is not educated. The public has no interest in understanding geopolitics. As you said, the mass media works to ensure that they're fed a steady diet of horse shit, which they readily consume and they become hopelessly dependent on. But there has to be a very loud, very bright, very clear act, an inciting act. Is that going to be these Russian ships off the coastline?
I was about to say that. Here's my theory. Let me tell you my theory real quick.
Yeah, go.
So false flag with these Russian things. Something happens. It sets it off. Biden's like, oh, Russia attacked. For sure. People, America's not falling for it. They don't know what happened. They're not falling for it. Still vote Trump in. Trump says that it was us who provoked it to false flag. And then he automatically looks like a Russian asset because he's blaming it on our own country. A false flag. And so they automatically put him under the bus. So that would be their only option. You would almost have to, because it makes Trump look like an asset. Because he's rightfully probably going to go, no, that wasn't them, that was us.
I don't think it's the case at all. I think Trump is absolutely. I know, and I have to go layers deeper than this to believe that the uniparty is actually a uniparty. It's not an accident that Trump made promises he never delivered on. He promised to deport 11 million immigrants. He did not. In fact, if you look at the statistics, and we can argue the statistics aren't valid, but there is good statistical evidence that we've relied on up to this date that shows that more illegal aliens were deported under fucking Obama, than were deported under any year of the Trump regime, and a significant portion. So more illegal immigrants were deported under Biden, I think, than under Trump. And Trump promised 11 million actively deported over 4 years when he took office. But that just rings as hollow as the other promises he's made. The fact of the matter is this all gets tied back to a population that does not hold that deceit and the lack of integrity is an offensive and unacceptable habit in a politician, in a political representative, in someone who would hold public trust. So far from it being a situation where Trump is an outlier, he is an outsider. He's like all of the other politicians. He's someone who wants to leverage his fame, who leverage his position, leverage the ear of the public to make himself a willing compatriot, to have power, to have prestige, and he's willing to do what he's told. And what he's going to be told to do is to roll into the inciting incident. There is this ridiculous notion that Donald John Trump is some kind of business person who is responsible for economic well-being. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. We know for a fact that the greatest threat facing this nation right now is not a near peer's military. It isn't what Russia might do in Ukraine. It isn't what China might do in Taiwan. Frankly, it isn't what Hamas or Israel will do in the Middle East or what Iran will do. None of those countries have any meaningful capability of striking, or rather, I mistake myself here, or rather occupying any of our territory. So the biggest threat is inflation. It's the devaluation of our purchasing power to the extent that as a country that is an importer, that imports more than it exports, our primary export is dollars, when that export becomes worthless, that the rest of the world wants nothing to do with us. In fact, they have a grudge against us. And he, Donald John Trump, is responsible for printing something like 50% of the total existing money supply, to the extent that it can even be measured. And people still, the majority of the political base that supports Donald John Trump as the best candidate, no longer is he considered as the lesser of the two evils. His tribulations, I say this sarcastically, have now propelled him to being the best that we could possibly. This country of 315 million people can't find a better candidate with more integrity than a 75-year-old real estate agent who is so vain he relies on makeup applications. I mean, this is truly preposterous. And I get it. We want to vote for somebody who's going to win because we really want change. But if we're not really going to take a part in that change, if we're not going to be responsible for the blood, the sweat, the equity necessary to achieve anything, like our forefathers who founded this nation that was a great nation, we can't expect that there's going to be meaningful improvements. Donald Trump is a part of the deep state for all intents and purposes. He will turn on the money printers. He will introduce a decrease in the purchasing power, and he will ultimately preside over the implementation of some kind of monetary reform that will allow the wealthiest to avoid responsibility for their exploitation of the working poor over the last 50, 60, 70, 100 years, since the implementation of programs like the Federal Reserve. These are facts. These are just undisputable facts. And I get it. We want to hope that we can just go in the general election and we're going to solve our problems. But man, the country is gone.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. I think the whole Trump thing and being like, well, we got to get him in because he's going to solve everything. And I'm under no delusion. But I think it's only because I don't believe that the country can be saved in 4 years. And so even if Trump went in, it's not like it's all of a sudden going to reverse course. And so I'm under no delusion that. But if it slows it down enough for me to establish a little bit further under my feet, then I'm all.
Did you hear about Trump's new immigration plan?
I didn't hear about it.
Now you want to, Abby, tell about Trump's new immigration plan.
I'm sorry, I don't know either.
Come on, Evan, Joy. Okay, fine. All right, there was so he promised 11 million immigrants are going to be deported. Well, the new plan is that the border is going to be secured with lethal force. All illegal aliens will be deported with prejudice, and everyone in India
That is yours.
will be. You, Abby, shut up, Abby, shut up. If Donald Trump needs to take credit for this plan for it to be implemented, God damn it, we're gonna give him the credit. Well, I gotta go. My phone's gonna die. Will, I'm forgetting what to do. I'm gonna subscribe. What?
Donald Trump for real?
No, that's not Donald Trump's plan. That's my fucking plan, Abby. Only I would have the gumption to gun down illegal aliens at the border. Okay. All right. I'm calm. All right. I love you guys.
Bye.
Goodbye. Aliens at the border. Okay. All
why should people join us on June 13th?
Because the game's changed. There are a bunch of things happening right now that we're all aware of.
Would words suffice to praise I set them forth? Had we but understanding, should we ever cease hymning and blessing the divine power, both openly and in secret, and telling of his gracious gifts? Whether digging or plowing or eating, should we not sing the hymn to God? Great is God, for that he hath given instruments to till the ground withal. Great is God, for that he hath given us hands, and the power of swallowing and digesting, of unconsciously growing and breathing while we sleep. Thus should we ever have sung, yea, and this, the grandest and divinest hymn of all. Great is God, for that he hath given us a mind to apprehend these things and duly to use them. What then? Seeing that most of you are blinded, should there not be some one to fill this place and sing the hymn to God on behalf of all men? What else can I, that am old and lame, do but sing to God? Were I a nightingale, I should do after the manner of a nightingale. Were I a swan, I should do after the manner of a swan. But now, since I am a reasonable being, I must sing to God. That is my work, I do it, nor will I desert this my post, as long as it is granted me to hold it. And upon you, too, I call to join in this self-same hymn. How then do men act? As though one returning to his country who had sojourned for the night in a fair inn should be so captivated thereby as to take up his abode there. Friend, thou hast forgotten thine intention. This was not thy destination, but only lay on the way thither. Nay, but it is a proper place, and how many more of the sort there be, only to pass through upon thy way. Thy purpose was to return to thy country, to relieve the kinsman's fears for thee, thyself to discharge the duties of a citizen, to marry a wife, to beget offspring, and to fill the appointed round of office. Thou didst not come to choose out what places are most pleasant, but rather to return to that wherein thou wast born and where thou wert appointed to be a citizen. Try to enjoy the great festival of life with other men. But I have one whom I must please, to whom I must be subject, whom I must obey, God, and those who come next to him. He hath entrusted me with myself, he hath made my will subject to myself alone, and given me rules for the right use thereof. Rufus used to say, if you have leisure to praise me, what I say is not. In truth, he spoke in such wise that each of us who sat there thought that someone had accused him to Rufus, so surely did he lay his finger on the very deeds we did, so surely display the faults of each before his very eyes. But what saith God? Had it been possible, Epictetus, I would have made both that body of thine and thy possessions free and unimpeded, but as it is, be not deceived. It is not thine own, it is but finely tempered clay. Since then this I could not do. I have given thee a portion of myself, and the power of desiring, declining, and pursuing, and avoiding. In a word, the power of dealing with the things of sense. And if thou neglect not this, but place all that thou hast therein, thou shalt never be let or hindered, thou shalt never lament, thou shalt not blame or flatter any. What then seemeth this to thee a little thing? God forbid. Be content then therewith, and so I pray the gods. What saith Antisthenes? Hast thou never heard? It is a kingly thing, Osiris, to do well and to be evil spoken of. Ay, but to debase myself thus were unworthy of me. That said, Epictetus, is for you to consider, not for me. You know yourself what you are worth in your own eyes, and at what price you will sell yourself, for men sell themselves at various prices. This was why, when Florus was deliberating whether he should appear at Nero's shows, taking part in the performance himself, Agrippinus replied, appear by all means. And when Florus inquired, But why do not you appear? He answered, because I do not even consider the question. For the man who has once stooped to consider such questions and to reckon up the value of external things is not far from forgetting what manner of man he is. Why, what is it that you ask me? Is death preferable or life? I reply life. Pain or pleasure? I reply pleasure. Well, but if I do not act, I shall lose my head. Then go and act, but for my part I will not act. Why? Because you think yourself but one among the many threads which make up the texture of the doublet. You should aim at being like men in general, just as your thread has no ambition either to be anything distinguished compared with the other threads. But I desire to be the purple, that small and shining part which makes the rest seem fair and beautiful. Why then do you bid me become even as the multitude? Then were I no longer the purple. If a man could be thoroughly penetrated as he ought with this thought that we are all in an especial manner sprung from God, and that God is the Father of men as well as of gods, full surely he would never conceive aught ignoble or base of himself, whereas if Caesar were to adopt you, your haughty looks would be intolerable. Will you not be elated at knowing that you are the Son of God? Now, however, it is not so with us, but seeing that in our birth these two things are commingled, the body which we share with the animals, and the reason and thought which we share with the gods, many decline towards this unhappy kinship with the dead, few rise to the blessed kinship with the divine. Since then every one must deal with each thing according to the view which he forms about it. Those few who hold that they are born for fidelity, modesty, and unerring sureness in dealing with the things of sense, never conceive aught base or ignoble of themselves, but the multitude the contrary. Why, what am I, a wretched human creature with this miserable flesh of mine? Miserable indeed, but you have something better than the paltry flesh of yours. Why then cling to the one and neglect the other? Thou art but a poor soul laden with a lifeless body. The other day I had an iron lamp placed beside my household gods. I heard a noise at the door, and hastening down found my lamp carried off. I reflected that the culprit was in no very strange case. Tomorrow, my friend, I said, you will find an earthenware lamp, for a man can only lose what he has. The reason why I lost my lamp was that the thief was superior to me in vigilance. He paid, however, this price for the lamp, that in exchange for it he hastened to become a thief, in exchange for it to become faithless.
Every time you talk, if you just do this one thing, it's going to rob you of confidence, it's going to rob you of clarity, and it's going to rob you of competence. Hi, hello.
If we were as intent upon our own business as the old fellows at Rome are upon what interests them, we too might perhaps accomplish something. I know a man older than I am, now superintendent of the corn market at Rome, and I remember when he passed through this place on his way back from exile, what an account he gave me of his former life, declaring that for future, once home again, his only care should be to pass his remaining years in quiet and tranquility. For how few years have I left, he cried. That, I said, you will not do. But the moment the scent of Rome is in your nostrils, you will forget it all, and if you can but gain admission to court, you'll be glad enough to elbow your way in, and thank God for it. Epictetus, he replied, if you ever find me setting as much as 1 foot within the court, think what you will of me. Well, as it was, what did he do ere ever he entered the city? He was met by dispatch from the emperor. He took it and forgot the whole of his resolutions. From that moment he has been piling one thing upon another. I should like to be beside him to remind him of what he said when passing this way, and to add how much better a prophet I am than you. What then? Do I say man is not made for an active life? Far from it, but there is a great difference between other men's occupations and ours. A glance at theirs will make it clear to you all day long they do nothing but calculate, contrive, consult how to wring their profit out of foodstuffs, farm plots, and the like, whereas I entreat you to learn what the administration
within the hierarchy within this satanic organization. Nicole Kidman's father he's a high priest in that organization. She talks about a black mass where he took a child and put him on the crucifix and flayed that child on the altar. Nicole Kidman, sitting in the front row, witnessed that. This is the torture they put those kids through that are trafficked to that program. But look what she went on to do. She ended up getting a high, she had like some acting coach, and somehow got connected from Australia to an acting coach that put her on in LA, and look at her career. No one speaks of her father. No one asks her of any of it. It's not even brought up. And it's out there. You could Google it about her father and the charges that were brought against him. Of course, it's not going to go in depth about who he was in that organization, but you can see that he had charges brought against him by the state or that country that had to do with child sexual offenses. Never once has anyone, it's not connected to her at all.
Wow, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, she's a witch. When people say that, people will they're like, ha ha ha. No, listen, there's real shit out here, and she's part of that. She witnessed that.
Hey everybody, this is Joe Biden. I just want to interrupt and say that today's preservation of the human race has been brought to you by Alex Soros and Pfizer.
And Soros is not really even his real last name, but alright.
But also, yeah, I just saw Google on whatever. Yeah, and Billy Graham, and it has her dad, and that's Nicole Kidman. And that's why she never had real birth children. She never birthed children.
Maybe so. Yeah.
She never had kids with Tom Cruise.
Never thought about that. And look at the film they put her in. Look at the film with what's his face, the fucking the filmmaker that was commissioned by Stanley Kubrick, the favorite producer of the elitist sickos. And yeah, exactly. Look what it was showing. And there's innuendo in there over the rainbow. Like there's a breakdown in that Vigilant Citizen website. It's a 3-article breakdown of Eyes Wide Shut. And when you read that article, go back and when you read that article, you'll be like, oh my God, I cannot believe I missed all those subtle nuances and all of the signals.
At the end of the movie, you see the little girl runs off with the older men in the straight coats.
What is that telling us?
What it's telling you is that Hunter Biden was found guilty today. Praise God, thank God. And he was walking away with his mommy, holding mommy's hand.
They're not going to do anything to him. He's not getting sentenced for 100. How many days? 100 days.
By the way, did you guys ever see that cryptic, weird shit where you have Bush Jr. and his mother, and they have what is it? Help me with this, cheeseburger. Shibunculus? She has the fetus of her first unborn child in a jar. This is on fucking national television, bro. It's on film. And she hands it to him. Yes, this is Barbara Bush giving it to the Bush asshole Jr. that went into Iraq. Look at that shit.
Barbara Bush, who is also the granddaughter of fucking
Alistair Crowley. Yes. Why the fuck did you keep your unborn fetus in a fucking jar and pass it down like it's a family heirloom?
I guess it is. It's what they call heirlooms.
It's
Skull and Bones. He's the Skull and Bonesman from Yale.
Exactly.
That's some rich crap.
They
They're related to
Aleister Crowley.
whatever, Crawley.
they have the skull of Geronimo. They use the skull of Geronimo for satanic divination in the.
Well, they do that shit, cheeseburger. You know they do that.
The skull and bones control the world.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre shit that if people really paying attention to it and just added it all up, tabulated it, they would see one sick scenario that adds up to something being extremely wrong.
You know what it created? Hunter Biden. He is the Nimrod of us Americans. He is a great hunter.
Yeah, look, his name has significance.
Can we imprison a man for carrying out his Second Amendment rights? He has security concerns.
Distraction. That's the last part.
Oh, I gotta finish this.
So welcome back, everybody, to the Preservation of the Human Race. Today's evening podcast is brought to you by Pfizer and Dr. Fauci. We are broadcasting live from Bill Gates' anus, and we want to come inside your tuchus and examine your anus and to get you your 10th booster shot. Raboina Shalala.
Sounds good to me.
Let's never forget that the biggest pharmaceutical corporations are based in Italy near the Vatican, because Fauci and Vaccini are the same thing. The Vaccini is like a tortellini. It's all Italian mafia criminality. It's the mafiosos. It's the Godfather. The big guy. The Sith Lord Emperor known as Joe Biden.
I hate to say it, but Al Pacino is a total, he's
another douchebag.
I haven't seen anything on it, but do you ever see him dressed up and how he wears the rings that his stuff he wears?
What ring?
Rings.
Does he wear a red one?
He wears a red one. He wears a pentagram on his hand. He wears.
No. He's significant. The red one is significant.
Yeah. He's got the red one.
The red stone. You see it in his palm? Oh, yeah. No, he's
But you always see Al Pacino all in black when they interview him and shit. And he's got, I mean, do you see the?
He was the devil's advocate. He played Lucifer. What do you expect?
He's like a 30-year-old or some shit like that.
Yeah. Me and him have the same birthday, unfortunately.
Are you a Satanist, Shannon?
Am I a Satanist? No, I'm not a Satanist.
Don't forget, Shannon, you were in that industry. That word are. I was in LA. You were in LA. And the brief, and me and you weren't even entrenched like that, and the shit we had to come with them.
Yeah.
It goes down.
I was very lucky to miss a meeting with Tommy Mottola and fucking, what's his name? Clyde Davis, let's just put it down there.
Oh my, listen, I can't say it.
You guys were one casting couch away from giving each other a blowjob.
I cannot say it publicly, but the personal account that you know who gave me when Prince took him into a meeting with Clyde, and the debaucherous fucking settings in that meeting and what was going on and what you already know.
Yeah.
You already know. Sick shit.
Yeah.
And this is that's Prince that ushered him into that meeting.
Yeah. I was just happy Shakira's A&R turned me down. That was good because then that would be another Tommy Mottola situation.
Shakira.
We used to hang out a lot before she released her American album. We were friends. But she shot my first demo. Well, my second actually. My first was shot at Yavium for Michael McCorn for Kenneth B. Edmonds, Drake B. Edmonds Sub-label, yeah.
Fuck the,
But yeah.
no one needs the fucking industry anymore.
No. I don't even fucking want to, dude. Fuck that shit. I mean, you can't even make money off your music anymore. The fucking streaming industry. You see what they're doing now? They got a new fucking law now they're embedding in. All the oh gosh, we just talked about it in the No Egos room and stuff. Music No Egos. Actually, Keith, you should come in there. Actually, it's every morning.
I did, and I heard people talking about when Cardi B is gonna release Mags. Like,
Well, no, there's a guy in Keene there. He knows all the rules and regulations of what's happening and what's going on in the music industry.
oh, that's okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's something. Yeah, it's a good room. You can network in it. It's great. People are cool. You don't need an ego. It's all good, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of people that got kicked out, and they were fucking big industry people. They don't, you know, they had egos. So we're just No Egos. It's kind of cool. So it's interesting. It's a good place to network. So yeah.
So now what? They just pretend they don't have egos in order to one up all the people that do pretend to have egos?
That's a good point there. You might be right about that.
The reality is, Cheeseburger, you can have your home studio record, produce, master, mix, master your own project, garner your own following, launch your own distribution, and maintain all of your rights to your masters without having to deal with any of them.
Exactly.
You know, and if you it's a grind, but if you're talented and you're willing to put that grind in, that cult following means more than any of these following. You know, these audiences today, they come and go with the artists that come and go. It's a phase. The phase of in and out, like plastic.
I think the law that they're submitting now, the regulations, is now you can use anyone's melody and get away with being fined or anything. I think that's what it is. So I think that's what he was talking about. It was weird. It was today. I was like, holy shit. So every fucking song that people copied the melodies, you know, because hip-hop took a lot of melodies from old school songs and implemented them in their own. But you're not getting recognition for it if you created it. So it's free game. That's what I thought. You took that? Yeah, exactly. You took that, you wouldn't have to pay for it. Let's just put it that way. So
Like someone took it and replayed it versus sampling it.
Yeah, exactly. Replayed it, put in their own words, the melody, because I remember you still, if you had that melody or that, you know what I mean? I think you could have made money off it.
If you don't vote Joe Biden, you ain't black.
Now you ain't gonna be making money off it anymore. That's what I think it is. I'll have to recheck tomorrow and ask the Keith. Yeah, it was crazy.
Let me ask you a question, Shannon, because I read some shit and I'm not sure, I don't know how it fits with me. And I read some shit that included in the same article, and you connect the dots when I say the names. Rick Rubin, Paul Rosenberg, The Alchemist, Action Bronson.
Moving in here and there, you know, and sometimes they think, okay, let me put my money into something and see what happens. You know what I mean? But yeah, I remember he used to bring Marshall Mathers to Suicide Perkins in Minneapolis, I totally forgot about it. He's, yeah, he used to sleep on my floor. I don't remember. Like, holy shit. Like, yeah. Because he used to go to Detroit all the time. And he used to work with this guy, Chance, who was a rapper. But, yeah, it was crazy, dude.
Yeah, okay. It's Rick Rubin. He's
Sorry, he was the head of Warner Brothers for like 4 years ago.
I know.
Warner Brothers,
I
yeah.
don't fucking believe this shit. Alright. You're pulling. Okay, I can't believe it.
Okay, so here's the thing, dude. Okay.
But I mean,
Forever hidden, hence they don't leave any.
I'm not gonna lie, that looks esoteric.
Of the world is, and what place it being endowed with reason holds therein, to consider what you are yourself, and wherein your good and evil consists. A man asked me to write to Rome on his behalf, who, as most people thought, had met with misfortune, for having been before wealthy and distinguished, he had afterwards lost all and was living here. So I wrote about him in a humble style. He, however, on reading the letter, returned it to me with the words, "I asked for your help, not for your pity. No evil has happened unto me." True instruction is this, to learn to wish that each thing should come to pass as it does. And how does it come to pass? As the disposer has disposed it. Now he has disposed that there should be summer and winter, and plenty and dearth, and vice and virtue, and all such opposites for the harmony of the whole. Have this thought ever present with thee, when thou losest any outward thing, what thou gainest in its stead, and if this be the more precious, say not, I have suffered loss. Concerning the gods, there are who deny the very existence of the Godhead. Others say that it exists, but neither bestirs nor concerns itself, nor has forethought for anything. Third party attribute to it existence and forethought, but only for great and heavenly matters, not for anything that is on earth. A fourth party admit things on earth as well as in heaven, but only in general, and not with respect to each individual. A fifth of whom were Ulysses and Socrates, are those that cry, I move not without thy knowledge. Considering all these things, the good and true man submits his judgment to him that administers the universe, even as good citizens, to the law of the state. And he that is being instructed should come thus minded, how may I in all things follow the gods, and how may I satisfied with the divine administration, and how may I become free, for he is free for whom all things come to pass, according to his will, and whom none can hinder. What then is freedom? Madness? God forbid, for madness and freedom exist not together. But I wish all that I desire to come to pass, and in the manner that I desire. You are mad, you are beside yourself. Know you not that freedom is a glorious thing and of great worth? But that what I desire at random, I should wish at random to come to pass, so far from being noble, may well be exceeding base. You must know that it is no easy thing for a principle to become a man's own, unless each day he maintained it and hear it maintained, as well as work it out in life. You are impatient and hard to please. If alone you call it solitude, if in the company of men you dub them conspirators and thieves, and find fault with your very parents, children, brothers, and neighbors, whereas when by yourself you should have called it tranquility and freedom, and herein deemed yourself like unto the gods. And when in the company of the many, you should not have called it a weirdsome crowd and tumult, but an assembly and a tribunal, and thus accepted all with contentment. What then is the chastisement of those who accept it? Not to be as they are. Is any discontented with being alone? Let him be in solitude. Is any discontented with his parents? Let him be a bad son and lament. Is any discontented with his children? Let him be a bad father. Throw him into prison. What prison? Where he is already, for he is there against his will. And wherever a man is against his will, there to him is a prison. Thus Socrates was not in prison, since he was there with his own consent. Knowing thou what a speck thou art in comparison with the universe. That is, with respect to the body, since with respect to reason thou art not inferior to the gods, no less than they. For the greatness of reason is not measured by length or height, but by the resolves of the mind. Place then thy happiness in that wherein thou art equal to the gods. Asked how a man might eat acceptably to the gods, Epictetus replied, if when he eats he can be just, cheerful, equable, temperate, and orderly, can he not thus eat acceptably to the gods? But when you call for warm water, and your slave does not answer, or when he enters brings it lukewarm, or is not even found to be in the house at all, then not to be vexed nor burst with anger, is not that acceptable to the gods? But how can one endure such people? Slave, will you not endure your own brother, that has God to his forefather, even as a son sprung from the same stock, and of the same high descent as yourself? And if you are stationed in a high position, are you therefore forthwith to set up for a tyrant? Remember who you are and whom you rule, that they are by nature your kinsmen, your brothers, the offspring of God. But I paid a price for them, not they for me. Do you see whither you are looking? Down to the earth, to the pie, to the pit, to those despicable laws of the dead? But to the laws of the gods you do not look. When we are invited to a banquet, we take what is set before us, and were one to call upon his host to set fish upon the table or sweet things, he would be deemed absurd. Yet in a word, we ask the gods for what they do not give, and that although they have given us so many things, asked how a man might convince himself that every single act of this was under the eye of God, Epictetus answered, do you not hold that all things are bound together in one? I do. Well, and do you not hold that things on earth and things in heaven are continuous and in unison with each other? I do, was the reply. Else how should the trees so regularly, as though by God's command, at his bidding flower, at his bidding send forth shoots, bear fruit and ripen it, at his bidding let it fall and shed their leaves, folded up upon themselves lie in quietness and rest? How else, as the moon waxes and wanes, as the sun approaches and recedes, can it be that such vicissitude and alternation is seen in earthly things? If then all things that grow, nay, our own bodies are thus bound up with the whole, is it not this still truer of the souls? And if our souls are bound up and in contact with God as being very parts and fragments plucked from himself, shall he not feel every movement of theirs as though it were his own, and belonging to his own nature? But you say, I cannot comprehend all this at once. Why, who told you that your powers were equal to God's? Yet God hath placed by the side of each a man's own guardian spirit. To the Stoics, the guardian spirit was each man's reason, who is charged to watch over him, a guardian who sleeps, nor is deceived. For to what better or more watchful guardian could he have committed each of us? So when you have shut the doors and made a darkness within, remember never to say that you are alone, for you are not alone, but God is within, and your guardian spirit. What light do they need to behold what you do? To this God you also should have sworn allegiance, even as soldiers unto Caesar. They, when their service is hired, swear to hold the life of Caesar dearer than all else. And will you not swear your oath, that are deemed worthy of so many and great gifts? And will you not Keep your oath when you have sworn it. Yet what oath will you swear? Never to disobey, never to arraign or murmur at aught that comes to you from his hand, never unwillingly to do or suffer aught that necessity lays upon you. Is this oath like theirs? I swear to hold no other dearer than Caesar, you to hold our true selves dearer than all else beside. How shall my brother cease to be wroth with me? Bring him to me, and I will tell him, but to thee I have nothing to say about his anger. When one took counsel of Epictetus, saying, what I seek is this, how even though my brother be not reconciled to me, I may still remain as nature would have me to be. He replied, all great things are slow of growth, nay, this is true even of a grape or of a fig. If then you say to me now I desire a fig, I shall answer it needs time, wait till it first flower, then cast its blossom, then ripen. Whereas when the fruit of the fig tree reaches not maturity suddenly, nor yet in a single hour, do you nevertheless desire so quickly and easily to reap the fruit of the mind of man? Nay, expect it not, even though I bade you. Epaphroditus had a shoemaker whom he sold as being good for nothing. This fellow by some accident was afterwards purchased by one of Caesar's men, and became shoemaker to Caesar. You should have seen what respect Epaphroditus paid him then. How does the good Felicion? Kindly let me know. And if any of us inquired, what is Epaphroditus doing? The answer was, he is consulting about so-and-so with Felicion. Had he not sold him as good for nothing, who had in a trice converted him into a wiseacre? This is what comes of holding of importance anything but the things that depend on will. What you shun, enduring yourself, attempt not to impose on others. You shun slavery. Beware of enslaving others. If you can endure to do that, one would think you had been once upon a time a slave yourself. For vice has nothing in common with virtue, nor freedom with slavery. Has a man been raised to the tribuneship? Every one that he meets congratulates him. One kisses him on the eyes, another on the neck, while the slaves kiss his hands. He goes home to find torches burning. He ascends to the Capitol to sacrifice. Whoever sacrificed for having had right desires, for having conceived such inclinations as nature would have him. In truth, we thank the gods for that wherein we place our happiness. A man was talking to me today about the priesthood of Augustus. I said to him, let the thing go, my good sir. You will spend a great deal to no purpose. Well, but my name will be inserted in all the documents and contracts. Will you be standing there to tell those that read them, that is my name written there? And even though you could now be there in every case, what will you do when you are dead? At all events, my name will remain. Inscribe it on a stone, and it will remain just as well, and think beyond Nicopolis what memory of you will there be. But I shall have a golden wreath to wear. If you must have a wreath, get a wreath of roses and put it on. You will look more elegant. Above all, remember that the door stands open. Be not more fearful than children, but as they, when they weary of the game, cry, I will play no more. Even so, when thou art in the like case, cry, I will play no more and depart. But if thou stayest, make no lamentation. Is there smoke in the room? If it be slight, I remain. If grievous, I quit it. For you must remember this and hold it fast, that the door stands open. You shall not dwell at Nicopolis, well and good, nor at Athens. Then I will not dwell at Athens either, nor at Rome either. You shall dwell in Gyara. Well, but to dwell in Gyara seems to me like a grievous smoke. Depart to a place where none can forbid me to dwell. That habitation is open to all. For as for the last garment of all, that is the poor body. Beyond that, none cannot do aught unto me. This is why Demetrius said to Nero, you threaten me with death, but it is nature who threatens you. The beginning of philosophy is to know the condition of one's own mind. If a man recognizes that this is in a weakly state, he will not then want to apply it to questions of the greatest moment. Is it his men who are not fit to swallow even a morsel, buy whole treatises and try to devour them? Accordingly, they either vomit them up again or suffer from indigestion, whence come gripings, fluxions, and fevers, whereas they should have stopped to consider their capacity. In theory, it is easy to convince an ignorant person. In actual life, men not only object to offer themselves to be convinced, but hate the man who has convinced them. Whereas Socrates used to say that we should never lead a life not subjected to examination. This is the reason why Socrates, when reminded that he should prepare for his trial, answered, "Thinkest thou not that I have been preparing for it all my life? In what way? I have maintained that which in me lay. How so? I have never secretly, openly done wrong unto any. In what character dost thou now come forward? As a witness summoned by God. Come thou, saith God, and testify for me, for thou art worthy of being brought forward as a witness by me. Is aught that is outside thy will either good or bad? Do I hurt any man? Have I placed the good of each in the power of any other than himself? What witness dost thou bear to God? I am in evil state, master, I am undone. None careth for me, none giveth me aught. All men blame, all speak evil of me. Is this the witness thou wilt bear, and do dishonor to the calling wherewith he hath called thee? Because he hath done thee so great honor, and deemed thee worthy of being summoned to bear witness in so great a cause? Which thou have men speak good of thee, speak good of them. And when thou hast learned to speak good of them, try to do good unto them, and thus thou wilt reap in return their speaking good of thee. When thou goest into any of the great, remember that another from above sees what is passing, and that thou shouldest please him rather than man. He therefore asks thee, is this in the schools? What didst thou call exile, imprisonment, bonds, death, and shame? I call them different things, and I call them things indifferent. What then dost thou call them now? Are they at all changed? No. It is then thou that art changed? No. Say then, what are things indifferent? Things that are not in our power. Say then what follows, that things which are not in our power are nothing to me. Say also what things you hold to be good, a will such as it ought to be, and a right use of the things of sense. And what is the end? To follow thee. That Socrates should ever have been so treated by the Athenians, slave. Why say Socrates? Speak of the thing as it is. That ever then the poor body of Socrates should have been dragged away and haled by main force to prison. That ever hemlock should have been given to the body of Socrates. That should have breathed its life away. Do you marvel at this? Do you hold this unjust? Is it for this that you accuse God? Had Socrates no compensation for this? Where then for him was the ideal good? Whom shall we hearken to, you or him? And what says he? Anytus and Miletus may put me to death, to injure me is beyond their power. And again, if such be the will of God, so let it be. Nay, young man, for heaven's sake, but once thou hast heard these words, go home and say to thyself, it is not Epictetus that has told me these things, how indeed should he? No, it is some gracious God through him, else it would never have entered his head to tell me them. He that is not used to speak to any one thus, well then, let us not lie under the wrath of God, but be obedient unto him. Nay, indeed, but if a raven by its croaking bears thee any sign, it is not the raven, but God that sends the sign through the raven. And if he signifies anything to thee through human voice, will he not cause the man to say these words to thee, that thou mayest know the power of the divine? How he sends a sign to some in one way, and to others in another, and on the greatest and highest matters of all signifies his will through the noblest messenger. What else does the poet mean? I spake unto him erst myself, and sent Hermes in the shining, one to check and warn him, the husband not to slay, nor woo the wife. In the same way, my friend Heraclitus, who had a trifling suit about a petty farm at Rhodes, first showed the judges that his cause was just, and then at the finish cried, I will not entreat you, nor do I care what sentence you pass. It is you who are on your trial, not I. And so he ended the case.